Hi everyone, in this week's futuristic news, basically, so you can find this on fanaticalfuturist.com and 311institute.com. As you'll see in front of me, IBM wants to build a 10,000 qubit quantum computer basically within 10 years. Now, Google actually want to create a 1,000,000 qubit quantum computer in about the same time fold. Now, to put this into perspective, quantum computers are already capable of doing calculations that would take the world's biggest traditional silicon-based supercomputers, like the Department of Energy Summit, billions of years in just minutes. Now, really, by the time we get to the year 2025, 2026, that kind of area, so about 1,000 qubits, these quantum computers will be able to crack 70% of all the world's encryption. So a 10,000 qubit system is insanely powerful. Sticking basically with a computer note, basically we've actually just seen the development of the world's first pneumatic computer. So we've already got biological computers, chemical computers, liquid computers, neuromorphic computers, molecular computers, polymer computers, as well as quantum computers and traditional computers. But this is actually a computer that runs on pressure. So it's really handy basically for wearable technologies and things like humans on chips, let's say. And if you don't know what that technology is or why it's interesting, on the one hand, basically that can actually transform human healthcare. It can accelerate the development of new clinical treatments and drugs and everything else. And you can check that out on the website as well. Now, we've also got basically quantum networks, so quantum network news. We've just created a quantum network over tens of kilometers. Now, quantum networks are generally thought to be completely unhackable because they use quantum mechanics to do what they do. Stanford are always up to something basically in the artificial intelligence space. They created a ChatGPT equivalent for $600, then shut it down. Now, as we'll see in a moment, basically the reason why this is important is because if I can create an open source ChatGPT version, then I can use it to do all kinds of nefarious and bad things because it won't have the guardrails that the professional, proper model basically that OpenAI put out actually has. We've got Accenture. So Accenture basically started this over the pandemic. If you still remember that, they've onboarded over 150,000 new hires in the metaverse. They call it the nth floor, and it's going rather well, apparently. We've got treatments that seem to reverse multiple sclerosis in 30% of mice with the condition. So MS basically is typically thought of as being untreatable. Maybe we have a cure in the next 5 to 10 years. Then we've got a survey of 1.5 million people shows that a third, so this is a Turing test, a third of us humans basically can't actually tell AI from humans any longer. Now that has an impact on things like misinformation, disinformation. This includes things like chat bots, but it also includes things like deep fakes and synthetic content. So this actually starts eroding trust in one another, trust in society, trust in democracy. It leads to a polarized society, a fragile government. And if you really want to destroy democracy, this is a good way to do it. And we're doing that, by the way. It's called PSYOPs, and there are a couple of countries that you might know, basically, that are very good at that. This is another interesting one in the cybersecurity space. So Barracuda thinks that this particular piece of malware was developed by a state actor because their email gateways were just attacked by a new kind of malware which was so pervasive, got into the hardware at such a basic level that even if you formatted the hardware and even if you patched the hardware, it's basically still bricked. So we're really starting to see some quite sophisticated and advanced kinds of malware now coming out, basically, that for really the first time make your hardware completely useless. And that's before we start talking about cyber attacks, basically like Stuxnet all those years ago, and rats attacks, basically where we can actually blow up a chemical plant by changing the data that sensors are kicking out. China basically on the generative artificial intelligence front, China are really good at getting ahead of the game when it comes to creating new regulations and laws on futuristic technologies. That's it. It's something that the West could actually learn from, for better or worse. We've got artificial intelligence again, so we've actually got a company called Parkway, and Parkway have just used artificial intelligence to create a 12-minute video, which was horrible, but actually horrible in a good way. So increasingly we're seeing AI that can from scratch generate new movies and everything else. And then, as I said earlier, if Stanford can create an open source large language model like ChatGPT, imagine what you could do with it, bearing in mind this is what you can do with the existing one. So if you go into ChatGPT and say, create some malware, it'll say, no, I'm ethical, I can't possibly do that. So people from the SANS Institute broke down the steps to create ransomware in this particular case, and then fooled ChatGPT with all of its safeguards, with all of its guardrails and everything else, into creating ransomware. So, as I say, all of this is on fanaticalfuturist.com. Go check out the blog. There are thousands of articles on the future, but if you go to 311institute.com, then you can see lots of books on the future as well. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.